direction that I think that we're going to continue to go as an industry is actually optimization of the home as part of the broader energy system or the grid. You buy a new refrigerator today and it very likely has a feature that it can be connected into some type of a utility program. Solar systems can be part of a utility program. And so what we're seeing now is the opportunity perhaps to actually integrate these technologies into a single system that can be optimized with the grid itself. There really will likely be no future where the home doesn't become an essential part of the energy mix. And this will happen globally.
Welcome, everyone. This is the AI at Scale podcast by Schneider Electric. My name is Malgorzata Gorska, and I'm the host of this program. Today, my guest is Scott Harden. Scott is the SVP for Connected Offers and Chief Technology Officer for Home Solutions at Schneider Electric. What we are discussing today is how AI is changing the way that we monitor and use the energy. Also, what are the top smart devices we are using at the home? And what are some of the myths around the energy saving? So welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much, Gosia. Glad to be here.
Yeah, let's start with your background, please. So you're currently responsible for defining and leading the technology roadmap for all software applications and systems supporting the residential new energy landscape portfolio. Previously, you worked at Microsoft as a Chief Technology Officer for Worldwide Energy and Sustainability, and you also serve on the board of directors of the Smart Electric Power Alliance. You are a graduate of the University of Oklahoma with a degree in architecture and engineering. So almost like I feel like almost your career was telling the story of this new energy landscape, because you were focused so much on grid, you work with utilities, you worked on energy software, and now with your current role, you are much closer to consumers, or even, shall we say, prosumers, because they are no longer only consuming the energy, but also producing it. So are indeed prosumers this important element of the energy landscape today?
Well, thank you for that question to start. And it is kind of fascinating how my career has come full circle. I've reimagined myself a few times since starting as an architect, but the built environment has become something that is absolutely critical when it comes to energy worldwide. And the role that I find myself in now is exciting and it's fascinating, because the role of homeowners as part of the overall energy mix and the energy ecosystem has become absolutely critical. And so in my role right now, I'm covering really two different parts of the business. One, we have brought together our software organizations that are truly looking at connected platforms for the home, and I know we're going to talk about some of that here today. And two, I also lead our connected offers businesses, which include Wiser, it includes KNX, as well as what we do in terms of thermostats and home networking. Now, why is this so important, for what we do? Is because what you can see globally is over half of homeowners now, more than ever, are very conscious of their energy consumption in the home. And that's for a variety of reasons. Cost of energy has gone up exponentially, as well as a proliferation of different systems such as solar and EV charging, as well as grid-connected elements that are within the home that truly bring energy front of mind to the homeowners themselves. And it's quite fascinating to see how this is really evolving now at a much more rapid pace than we have seen in the last 10 years. But it's actually following similar patterns to what we have seen a decade ago in the built environment when it comes to commercial and industrial facilities. Now we're just seeing a lot of exciting developments that are happening in the home.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And among all these changes that you mentioned, which would you say is the biggest shift in how consumers think about the energy?
Yeah. I think there's an analogy that we could talk about, which is like when the internet became something that was no longer just referred to as a device-specific, technology. It's now ubiquitous, and I think that what we're seeing happen in the home as people go invest more and more in electric technologies through the purpose of electrification in their home, they're becoming much more. It's becoming a greater part of just their internal vocabulary within their home. And so if you see things such as, solar systems now, the solar systems 10 years ago are really kind of just more of a unique deployment that was made by people who were truly interested in kind of tinkering with their own home. Now, if you look at Australia as an example, over 50% of the homes in Australia actually have rooftop solar. And it has incredible implications.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I must say, from my own experience as well, among my friends, my family members, a lot of them already have solar panels. And indeed, it changes the way that they perceive, because now they can access all this information about how much energy they are actually producing, which wasn't the case in the past. So this is definitely something that has changed around. And you mentioned a little bit about monitoring of the energy, because this is also the shift that is happening. So why is that so important? That now, with the exponential use of, for example, solar panels and also wind turbines, we are getting this possibility to actually monitor better at the home level how the energy is being produced and used as well.
Yeah. Monitoring is actually key to this, because essentially it's all about energy data, right? And so if you think about what is happening within the home, with this proliferation of devices, as I talked about, right, you actually have to think of it as an optimization challenge, right? Optimization of individual elements such as an EV charger, optimization of loads such as large loads tied to water heating, and then optimization within the home as a system. And so you will have, optimized solar that you would want to use at an optimum time to be able to perhaps charge a vehicle. And so now you're talking about system to system optimization. And then the third layer that I find to be the most exciting, and the direction that I think that we're going to continue to go as an industry, is actually optimization of the home as part of the broader energy system or the grid. There's been a lot of research and work that has been done much more recently around grid interactive technologies in the home. And you'd be surprised at how many of these actually exist. You buy a new refrigerator today, and it very likely has a feature that it can be connected into some type of a utility program. Solar systems can be part of a utility program. And so what we're seeing now is the opportunity perhaps to actually integrate these technologies into a single system that can be optimized with the grid itself.
Yes, indeed. And you have been for so many years in the software space. How would you say, how fast is the adoption of the smart tech that is entering homes today?
Yeah, well, you can certainly see that it is accelerating. And I think that the more important point about it is actually that we're seeing convergence, right? You could see phases where 10 years ago, a lot of the automation technologies that were emerging when it came to, things such as Alexa and things like that in the home really led towards the opportunity for perhaps people to be able to provide some type of a digital capability within their home from these different systems. But the convergence that we're seeing right now is really how all of this comes together, with a real emphasis around energy management as well. We refer to this as HEMS, or home energy management systems. And I think it's incredibly important that we actually think of these as a unified experience, whereas we're not just talking about being able to have routines or scenes that we set with the lighting in the home, but actually, as I mentioned, about optimization, about bringing together all of these different systems and managing them very similar in the way that you would do a commercial building.
That's really impressive, and I think people are getting more and more open to this kind of applications. Actually, you have run an interesting research. So earlier this year, there was a research that was published. It was prepared by Opinium, and Schneider Electric was asking 13,000 of homeowners about the usage of smart applications. I don't know if you remember, I have it with me. What are the top 5 smart devices that we are using today at homes? And number 1, did you remember which one was it?
I don't remember all of them, but I know that my home is full of them.
Yes, exactly. So the first one was smart lighting. The next one was voice assistants like Google Home, Alexa, and so on. But then on the third place, we have smart thermostat, then smart energy monitor, and smart doorbell. So any surprises here for you?
No surprises for me. I think that what is going to be, again, interesting is to see, as these systems continue to proliferate, how important will it become to the homeowner to have them be interoperable? right? And this is a challenge that we actually really need to solve for, because I don't, you list all of those different technologies, and I have many of them at my home. I also have many different apps on my phone that actually control all of these different things. And it really is becoming, I would say, overly complex. And so there's a need, I believe, to create what would essentially be an organizing layer within your home, as you have all of these different communicating and intelligent technologies, to be able to help organize them and optimize how they actually work together.
I can imagine that this would be very helpful, especially as you said, that we have more and more applications. And I guess this is the point where we would start thinking about artificial intelligence. After all, this is the podcast about AI. So once we start talking about smart applications, naturally AI comes into our minds. So what's the role of AI in enabling this intelligence happening at the home level?
I think that there's going to be a multitude of potential opportunities for AI to be applied. To use the analogy that I talked about earlier around the internet, I think that AI will ultimately just become so ubiquitous that we don't even refer to it anymore. Because there's probably already examples of within your home today where AI is actually embedded and being used by some of the systems in your home, from a refrigerator that, cools at a certain, routine, to the way your solar system actually optimizes the use of the sun, at certain times of the day. And so I think that what we will see is a greater trend towards how AI is actually spoken about less, and it's going to be more about the outcomes, right? And how all of these different systems, kind of be able to work together. Now, where I see the greatest potential is, I talked about the optimization problem of, individual systems to the system of systems to then to the grid. There really will likely be no future where the home doesn't become an essential part of the energy mix. And this will happen globally. You already see it happening in Australia today because of all of the rooftop solar that exists. As EV chargers start to proliferate in the home, and we look at vehicle-to-grid type capabilities. And so I think what we will see is that there's actually going to be AI capabilities that will help with that optimization. It'll happen behind the scenes, right? I mean, there will be some things like what we've done in Wiser, where you can have an application that is AI-driven to help you reduce your energy bill. But there's going to be more critical work that happens behind the scenes, where you essentially create a residential platform that optimizes for all of these different systems together. And that's where I think that there's a real exciting opportunity for AI.
Yes, especially that it comes with some complexity, because in some countries you have different energy tariffs, your different applications at home are using energy at the different levels. So there is so much room for optimization. And I think the benefit of AI is quite naturally coming to our minds. However, if I go back again to the research, because one thing that struck me really is that the knowledge about the benefits doesn't seem to be paired with this wish to welcome AI at homes. So in the survey, in the research, we found that 44% of consumers would be unwilling to rely on AI to manage household tasks automatically. At the same time, 30% admit that they are optimistic that AI can make our lives easier, and 33% believes that AI can help them manage their home more efficiently. So, as the Chief Technology Officer, do you see a way that technology can stand up to these expectations and also mixed feelings about AI?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think the terminology that we should start to think through more is really going to be about talking about how these systems are software defined. And AI is just part of that software, right? And so rather than really trying to highlight a particular use case for how AI is applied to perhaps, optimize a charger as it's charging your vehicle overnight, it's more about what that software is actually doing and the outcomes that it's providing, right? In other words, is there a better time for me to be charging my car? Can you help make sure that I am taking advantage of the price signals that are coming from my local utility? Is there a better time of the day for my solar system to actually be absorbed into the battery of my car? And I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but it certainly could be dependent upon weather conditions, forecasts associated with this. And so all of this capability, I believe, will be happening behind the scenes. And this is where I believe, there's a lot of potential benefits to really be applied as we think about how we utilize AI technologies.
So, Scott, you mentioned already a lot of simple changes that we can do at the home level in order to use less of the energy. Can you give me more examples?
Yeah, a great example that I can provide is really related to my own home. I have a fully electrified home. I have two heat pumps. I have all electric appliances, including my water heater. I have an EV charger. And with the capabilities that are available today, I actually have the opportunity to not only have the situational awareness of the visibility into all of my energy consumption, but I also have the opportunity to perhaps optimize this together, right? My last house had a combination of different fuels from gas to electric and different types of appliances. And it's very difficult to really look at how do I optimize all of these as a system. But it's different now because with the fact that these are all electric appliances and they're actually the opportunity to be able to systematically organize them in ways where you're following things such as price signals from utility to the amount of solar energy that you're producing on your roof. You really can look at the whole system together now and be able to actually look at efficiency, not only at the individual level and saying, hey, I want to, have just good behavior around my home and turn the heat down at night and do other things. You can actually look across the entire system and make choices that are based on both internal to your home, so, energy monitoring to external information that comes in as well.
And there is even this fact that you don't know what you don't know. So once you have this information, you can actually see some patterns and you can see some room for improvement, definitely. So why don't we jump into another great topic, which are the myths around the energy savings? Do you see, based on the data that you have for your own home, but also from the Schneider products, are there still some myths that we should debunk around energy saving?
Yeah, I think, it's the simple ones are topics like lighting, right? Everybody says, hey, make sure to turn your lights off because you're going to be consuming more energy. Well, most lighting in a home is LED lights now anyway, right? And they're extremely efficient. And so that's not really the typical offender. But when you think of a home like mine that has fully electrified, heating and air conditioning, that becomes the most significant load in the home, right? And so now I have to be more consciously aware of how much energy these systems are actually using. And I'm asking myself the question, and I'm looking for software to actually help me with this, to be able to say, hey, here are some suggested changes you can make to optimize these things. Another great example is electric vehicles. There are, as a matter of the utility that serves my home today, they actually have specific rate structures that you can actually enroll in, so that if you charge your car at a particular time in the day, it'll actually cost you less than if you did at another time of the day. And so I think it's pretty exciting, opportunities because of these new technologies and the visibility you have, that you really can start to look at efficiency in a very different way.
That's true. And I cannot stop myself from asking you, what are you cooking as Chief Technology Officer? So what's next in the energy landscape?
Yes, what is next? We're really, really fascinated about what the emerging capabilities are going to be in the home. The residential segment for Schneider Electric is about 10% of our business. And that really traces back to what we have done with our brands such as Square D and others. But as we see the world moving much more towards, electrification, the residential segment is a big part of that. And not only is it exciting from the potential for us to be able to really deliver technologies to help people optimize their energy use, to be more resilient, to be able to have more integrated systems, but actually also what excites me the most is how the homes actually become grid interactive, and how the potential for homes to actually be part of the overall energy system. I have a good friend of mine who works in our digital grid business. He and I are actually working on a white paper together right now. And the question that we really want to answer is, where is the actual edge of the grid? And the way that it had typically always been understood is that the edge of the grid stops at the meter. Well, I don't think that's the case anymore, because now you have mentioned prosumers. When you have people that are actually being able to produce energy in their home, they're able to actually adjust the way that they consume energy at the home. If you integrate that into the energy system, it becomes a flexibility resource at a much needed time globally because electricity demand is rising, which is a good thing because it really is indicative of the fact that we are all electrifying. But I think that the real exciting technology is the work that we're doing right now is looking at how the home can become more grid interactive.
That sounds like a great opportunity and a nice challenge for you. So I guess your agenda will be busy in the next months to work on this. Thank you so much, Scott, for the conversation. Thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Great to talk about this.
Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. This was AI at Scale podcast. Stay tuned for next episodes.